Okay, I'm armed and dangerous. Looked up a chart of the parts of the iris for me. However, it printed out so small that what I think I'll do is just show you on my painting. It'll be easier that way. But anyway, I know all the terms now, and I won't have to call the beard the hairy thing. And I do remember it is called a beard now. So let me show you something really quickly first before we get into the parts of the iris. And that has to do with good old Mr. Color Wheel. Now look what we have done on this painting. Well, actually, Mother Nature did it for us. We've taken a blue violet and a violet. Those are just perfect matches. I hope the colors come across on the video. And what we've done here, we've taken this part of the color wheel, violet to blue violet to red violet, let's just say. But violets, or blue violet really is our main color, I think. And then we've gone across the color wheel to use the yellows, the yellow oranges, and the yellow greens. So yellow green all over the place. It's variations of it, of course. But if you turn the color wheel over, this particular one, I don't know what it had on the front. I've torn it off. It was in my way. But on the back, it has key color, violet, and then across from violet, yellow, green, yellow, and yellow, orange. So there we go. So we have a perfect color combination for this. Just wanted you to know. Now, let's talk about the parts of the iris. It's real interesting because I read all about an iris, and it is a German name, and it means, I'm sorry, not German, Greek, and it means rainbow. So that's very appropriate for an iris. The thing I was talking about that the iris comes out of is called the spathe. I think that's how you must pronounce it. And right up here, this is the crest. And right below the crest, this rounded thing is the stigma. And then, of course, the hairy things are the beards. The top petals are called the standards. That's kind of a funny name. I don't know why they're called that. And then the bottom petals that come out and fall like a waterfall, they are called the falls. So I think that's very appropriate. And then another thing I learned, and then I'll shut up about it, it's called also, the iris is also called Fleur de Lis, which means the flower of the lily in French. And they used that emblem way back even in the Egyptian times, way back. And then the emperors had it on their, whatever those things are they carried. And this is a cool flower. So we're painting a good one here. Now, to the painting itself, let's get back to that. Whoops. The next thing I want to do is tell you what I kind of realized during our little break there. And that is that, number one, I am not altogether happy with the shadow color. And I think what happened is, since I'm upright especially, it settled as it ran down. It kind of puddled into, the color is an opaque color that I use, the buff titanium, because it seemed just perfect. But as it ran down, it kind of gathered on the paper and got more opaque. So what I want to do on mine, I don't know if you'll need to do that on yours, is lift a little bit. With the magic eraser. And the second thing I noticed is when I looked at it from a distance, this light line right here just stands out to me something horrible. So I'm going to get rid of it. It's a straight line on top of being noticeable. It's straight. So I want to get rid of that. I went in and all I did was to use the pop-in eraser and this one, and really bared down to get rid of my heavy pencil marks. And I had done them especially heavy because I knew you wouldn't be able to see them if I didn't. So I got rid of a lot of them, and I'm happy about that. So let's start and get going on this. What I'm going to do about the buff titanium color is simply use Mr. Magic Eraser and go in and very, very lightly lift some of it. I just want to get like the surface. Now this is okay over in here. It looks nice, and I want it kind of glowing instead of heavy looking. So that's the part I object to. But even that little bit I just did puts a little glow back into it. So I'm just going to pick places that look a little heavy to me. Now, the danger in doing anything like this is I'm going to destroy, well, I'm not going to, I could destroy my shadows by making them too light, and then they're part of the light family, and that would not be good. So I'm going to try my best not to do too much of this, but just to lift enough to give it more of a glow in the shadows, and then I can even come over it later if I need to with a little reflected light or something. But right now, as it stands, it was just puddling into a kind of opaque color. So I'll just lift a little. There might be another way to do this, I don't know, but I just decided to do it this way. And so now this, to me, has a little more glow to it. I don't know about the shadows up here. They really look okay. You know, I might just do a tiny bit of lifting, just barely. But I don't think I got it as concentrated in that flower as I did in this one. Okay, so that's what I want to do. The next thing I think I better do is go ahead and do the bud here. And then all the paper will be covered, and it's really time to start just final touch detailing. This is the line I want to get rid of, so I'm very lightly curving that line, and then I'm going to put some purple over it, because actually that line comes from this part that's in light, and it kind of disappears into shadow, and that line shouldn't really even be there at all. Let's get rid of that part right up there. I just got carried away or something. But anyway, I do need to put purple back, because now that looks more like it's in the light family than the shadow family. So I am going to go in and put, let's see here, I'm trying to think. This comes out, yeah, this actually goes up into the light, and then the shadow. And it's okay that this is wet where I lifted, because it'll be soft. Now I'm going to make it all run up into the shadow. And be sure I curve things. That is much better, I think. And this, I do like that. I might put a kind of a wash of, I don't want to mess up my light, but I want to put a little bit more of the purple on it. It'll probably be just fine when it dries. Okay. So, before I start doing finishing touches, which I'm about to do one right here, I'm going to go up and do that bud. The finishing touches part is my favorite part. Oh, and something else I did. When I stood back, which you all should do, I told you to do that. This was much too dark right here. It almost looked like this was the stem instead of this. So I still might need to work on that a little bit. And make sure that from a distance we don't, it's not questionable. So I think I might lift a little bit of that green right now to remind myself to work on that. Okay, so back up to the bud. Let's go ahead and get the stem in. I made it too wide when I negative painted, so I'm going to have to come over and trim it down just a little bit. I think I'm going to make it go back behind that petal so I don't have a tangent. So I'll just use my New Gamboge, what there is left of it, burnt sienna, and phthalo green, and I'll put a little cerulean in it. And I think, oops, I'm wobbly here. There we go. I think right here I'll come down behind there, so we don't have a tangent, and then I will just add some lemon yellow to this mixture. Make the other side, and then I'll paint behind it with whatever color that is in a minute when that dries, and get the negative part done. Lift a little bit of that. Okay, now the bud itself is purple. Oh, I've got to do the, what's my new name? Spades. This thing that it comes out of first. So, in the picture, it's kind of neat because it has a little, that's not going to work. The light was coming from behind, but from the behind left. Well, that still makes sense. So the sun is actually shining on part of this that's in the shadow part. Just a little tiny bit of it. You'll notice in your picture when you look at it. So I am going to put a tiny bit of that, and then there's a little burnt sienna looking on it. I'm trying to get a mixture of some colors to make it more interesting, and I'm just doing it really like it is here. This is all in shadow, so I'm going to make it run from the burnt sienna to the greenish. I just added a little cerulean. And I can't see the bottom of it, but I'm going to make a little light on it. Go over my dark part. So, put a little bit of light right there. Probably. I know I'm being really picky, but this is how I usually paint. Instead of just slapping it on and trying to get it done, I do take a while, as you can now see. Especially with complicated things that you can't just totally ad-lib. Okay, now I'm going to mix my purple. This is really a nice deep purple right here. It's got a little sliver of light because it is backlit. It also has some light on this side, which is kind of neat. So I'm going to try to show that. And I love the light that is on the top, so I don't want to lose that. And this kind of comes into some green. And I've drawn around these little light places so I wouldn't paint over them, hopefully. Okay, now while that's wet, I want to go ahead and run the yellow-green in shadow. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm just going to try a little alizarin. I just got too much. This is in shadow. And then I want the purple purple to show through, because I think that's pretty cool. So I'm putting the yellow-green, it's kind of a dark yellow-green, by the purple, but not letting it exactly go over the purple. I'm going to see how that works to show what it looks like. And then the purple picks up again on the edge. Even the bud's hard, isn't it? This is ridiculous. I'm going to add some yellow ochre. So some of this stuff showing through is good. And now all I have to do is put a very light purple out here. I could just leave it actually. Probably should. Maybe I will leave part of it. I think my problem is right now I don't have this rounded quite enough, so it looks too straight. And that was in the drawing part that I missed that. So we'll make it grow a little. Okay, now I've got to do it out here, but I need to go in here with that burnt sienna again, because it kind of disappeared on me. Well, that's better right there. I still see a little more purple in there that I've got. The bud's just as hard as the irises. And bank on that. Okay, and the good part is we don't really want the bud to be that important. So, it's okay that it's not. And one of my New Year's resolutions was to use a palette knife more. And I have not even done it in this painting, but I'm about ready to. I think I'll do a little lift right here on the edge. I just lifted that part with the heel of my knife, and darken that green just a little bit. And then we'll get off of this bud. I didn't mean to take all day doing the bud part. Okay, that should be enough. He looks like a bud to me. One more thing. Always one more thing. Darken it right down in there to make that really go down in. Okay, enough. Now, let's go back over here. There's one thing I wanted to correct that I forgot to mention. I accidentally got this petal, one of the standards, coming over into the middle part in there. So I wanted to lift that and do some negative painting. Try to get it. Boy, that color's not coming off, is it? Try again. And then also to make it look like part of this petal, I can put some, and I'll have to now that it's not coming off very well, put another ruffle thing right there like these are, and I think that'll fix it. But that's good enough for now. Okay, so let's go in there, and in squinting, this whole thing looks pretty dark except for a little part where the sun, I think, is coming through. That's probably what I was trying to do, but I'm gonna, because it's right there, and I'm not gonna do it because it'll confuse the matter again. But there is some more light coming through down here, and there's also something I missed where that comes up and goes over into this petal, which is the standard. There's a little sliver right in there that is background, and that will help tell what's going on in here if I get that in. Okay, so let's go. What I want to do also, there's some darker purple right over there that's in shadow that I don't have on there. And I'm just trying to explain what's going on in there. So I'm going to get my magenta-ish purple and put that in. And also it's more solid right in here. And then I need to darken my beard. Okay, let's soften those edges before they dry, just barely. Now let's darken the beard, and sometimes to darken a yellow, we can go with a little bit of red and a little bit of green. And sometimes that works. So the whole thing is in shadow, but I also want the bottom of it to be darker so it will sit down. So, okay, I'm just going to put some kind of dark orangey down here. There we go. Now let's go over in here and negative paint behind this petal. I just lifted out and put the background. I'm going to do the background first. That's really going to explain things, I hope. And we got to curve it. Okay, now let's go in with darker yellow. And I don't really understand what is going on back there. I'm squinting and I still don't understand. But I do know, I think some light's coming through right there. So I'm going to leave that light for now. Put a couple of little shadows going on there. And let's see. I'm going to carry that shadow on down. And there's a tiny bit of a kind of reddish orange. Oh, I wish I knew what happened in here. I can't really begin to imagine without seeing the real iris in front of me. That's why you need to go out and do them out there. Okay, now I cannot remember how I made this shadow color, but I'm thinking I used a tiny bit of the buff titanium and a tiny bit of the purplish color. So we'll try that. And continue this one on down. I'm going to put some little lines as I go. And that will make this look more like it's in shadow. And I've kept this a little lighter than what's behind it. As long as I got that on my brush, I'm going to go ahead and do what I said I was going to do here. And this is all really a shadow. It comes from a cast shadow out into the light. So I'm doing that at the same time because I didn't really get that in. And remember, this is a white petal or off-white. So these shadows really have to be pretty darn light. Now also, I've got to put one over here to separate. Oh dear, this is a whole different petal. Okay, good. I can still do this. This is another petal back here. I have no idea how many petals this flower really has. Okay. Somehow we need to separate this. There's another shadow that comes out here. I feel like I'm opening a can of worms. By realizing this was another petal, I should have left it alone. Okay. So what I think I'll do, since this one is out in the light and this one's turned away from the light right in there, I'm going to go ahead and lift just a little bit off of this petal. And put a little more on this one. Kind of like that. Not sure what goes on there. I'll just kind of fill it in. Okay, I still don't have it looking like another petal, but you know what? It might not be. It might not really matter. Trying to lift some light in the shadow part. I think I'm just going to leave that like it is. Okay, so there's a little bit of the, what do I call it, beard part that I need to indicate, just barely showing. Right there. Okay. This is the whole thing that I covered up on my drawing with green. So if I can get a little bit of it peeking out, that's fine. I'm happy. And I'm restating some of these shadows here. Okay. Now I'm going to use just a little touch of white. It's really in shadow. I don't know why, because it's sticking out into the light, so mine's going to be in light, but just a touch, and I can negative paint that a little bit if I want to. So we're doing okay here. Now, standing back and looking at it, I see that this part is too light for what I want. So this is the adjusting part. I told you after we get the whole paper covered that I would do some adjusting. And I can see lots of places. I'm just going to go over this as quickly as I can, but this is the part you never get to see in class because we just don't have enough time. And you can see how slow I am. So I'm going to make this panel needs to wrap around out of the light, not just stop suddenly. I've got a little bit of a line there, so I'm going to soften that. Okay. And then back here, when I fill this part in, the negative part, I left a few little whites, and my intention in doing that was to see how it would look to repeat the purple. I did this down here while it was wet, and I'm going to just see what happens putting those in and softening them, and I'm going to soften them by making the green darker. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone, you might say. So I want to come in with, I like the red in there. I'm going to try to conserve that and then get darker as I come down closer to this. Okay, that's what I want. Now, before I get too far, I want to just soften. I want these to look like they were done wet into wet. These little purple things. So, we'll soften edges and then come on down. I think I need a tiny bit more kind of reddish in here to continue that over. So this part here is all wet for now. And I'm coming down to the main iris. I want to make that really dark. Okay, and then I'll have to continue it over here also. There's a little burnt sienna. I managed to lose all my purple things except that one, but that's okay. You win some, you lose some. Okay, now I need to, I don't know what that is, but I kind of like it. I just left it. I don't know what it is. So let's just wet that. I need to fill this in right here with background. And that background is kind of a reddish. I'm not going to go over all the background. I'm going to find a place to stop here in a second. Okay, now let's do something up here. I think I need to darken that. That could be another petal or something. I'm going to try something. I'm going to put a little purple up. Well, it's in the background. I just pushed it back, so I don't see why I can't leave it. Now this yellow is competing a little bit with that light side of that bud. So I'm just going to put a little wash over it. Lose the edge. This is what I call my fine-tooth comb stage, when I go over it with a fine-tooth comb and correct things, squint a lot, see what needs to be done to make it finished and a better painting. And sometimes I'll take a picture, well, no, not sometimes, most of the time I'll take a picture with my iPhone. I'm lifting that just a little, because seeing it really small, for some reason, lets you tell more about it. Okay, now I have successfully destroyed this shadow when I lifted it, and I want to put some more cool in that shadow right there. So I'm going to mix up the very most watered down color I can possibly mix of blue. And I'm not sure which blue this is. It's on my palette. It's probably cobalt because it's just sitting there on my palette. And I've been using a lot of cobalt. So let's see how this works. This is actually a cast shadow from this little fold. So I'm going to have to lift some more out of that because I lost that. And I love that little place in the iris, and somehow I destroyed it. So I want to get it back. So that little bit of blue helped. So I might try it down here. So this has none of that buff titanium at all. Okay, now this is kind of the fun part. I like lifting. So this right here, I'll try to stay out of the way of your sight. I'm going to lift this. And guess what? It doesn't lift all the way. So I just happen to have some white paint here on my palette. So I don't think it'll hurt if I put that in there. And then behind it was a shadow that I kind of neglected. Oh, it's confusing. I don't know what goes on here, but there's a little light and a little ruffle, and I'm just going with it. But that made that come out a little bit, and that's what I wanted. I'm going to take a little more cobalt, and right where that turns from the light, while it's wet, I'm going to put a tiny bit of cobalt there. And then I'm squeezing my brush out real good. And just run it along there to soften. Okay. Now then, let's see here. Okay, a little bit more shadow goes right in there to make this more curvy, whatever this is. as it goes into the shadow. All right, now there are no lines that I can see in this little petal that comes out, and then it folds back, which I haven't done very well. I'm going to restate that, but I want to put a couple of very, very light ones in. There's a little shadow there too, just to show indication of folds like that, even though I don't see them in the picture, and I don't think they're on this iris as far as I can tell. But I do want a couple of directional lines. Okay, so I'm kind of scoping out this iris. Now, one thing I do know is there's some confusion right in here because I haven't shown those little lines that look like a fold, or these. So these are in a shadow and then they come out into the light, so I'm going to make them a, instead of blue, I'm going to make them yellow ochre. Like that. And I still don't have that dark enough. The part that's in the stigma, that's what this thing is. It's really kind of dark up in there. And that helps our whole painting. And I'm adding my own little lines again, and then I've got to add some, it's probably not the right color, that should be more blue. So we'll change it. And that looks okay. But I am going to get darker right down here. And I'm making up some stuff here, but it helps the picture, I think. Okay. Now, I think I am going to put a light wash over these folds. We'll take a break in a minute, look at it with the mat again. These are casting shadows, so this is about the third time I think I've done this, but I am going to put some more paint. Another thing that's a good thing about looking at your work and taking a break every once in a while, not just so you can see it with a fresh eye, but it's also so that you don't sit here and just overwork the darn thing without stopping and going, well, do I really need to do any more to that part? Okay, here goes my light wash. And I think I am going to just barely blot it, but I got rid of that pure white. So I think we will take a break. Let me finish this little beard shadow part down here. And let's put the mat on it and take a break. Look at it with a fresh eye and come right back and go to finish.